Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today is episode 157, and I have to start out this episode by admitting that I'm coming to you from a place of extreme tiredness. I had some positive life changes in the last 2 months. Everything's definitely going well and on the upswing, but I am now one of those people that doesn't have any time. I've heard people in my adult life use that as an excuse, so that's why I didn't call you back. That's why I didn't text you back. And now I've unfortunately become one of those people that has almost zero time. So right now, I should I should be taking a nap, but I'm not. I'm basically forcing this episode because I really wanted to basically just get something out there. I haven't I haven't done any content on my channel in at least 2 months, maybe three. So who better to come back and revisit than I think this will be my third episode that brushes up against or touches on the famous Giegling label, and I'm really excited to do this for you. So the Giegling label is a German label. It was founded in 2009, and one of the things that I was contemplating as I was preparing to make this episode is that basically if you look at the history of electronic dance music, you could argue that 2009 was a pretty heavy low point in the electronic music scene. It was definitely an economic and social low point in America. I mean, that was when the housing crash started. People were getting laid off, and because people were getting laid off, nightclubs weren't getting as much revenue and they were starting to close. So I remember back then in that era, it was very difficult to find parties, and the only people throwing parties were basically like the very niche underground, like nothing really started until 1 in the morning and it went until 9 a.m. Like the really sketch after parties were the only thing running back then. And musically, I think it was also a pretty heavy low point for music. Vinyl production was down, pressings were down. We were in the electro house, cliche electro house had pretty much died out by 2009. Minimal, oh my God, the minimal era is just, it's terrible. I mean, I still have some M.A.M.P records in my collection because there's still some good minimal, but most of those, man, when I go back and listen to them, they just sound like crap. So Giegling is basically the ultimate underground, I guess, underdog that basically launched from this era of, in my opinion, electronic music desperation. It was looking like vinyl was on the ropes, and here's Giegling putting out these pressings and quietly and slowly building a reputation with five-star artists, crazy parties, and I think that combination of selecting and curating really talented artists and having an underground scene at the same time, it created this fan base, man, and I missed it. I missed it in the beginning. I'll admit I probably did not catch on to Giegling until about 2012. Like the hype was picking up, and I caught it like on the upswing when I started listening to it. At that point in 2012, if you wanted to go back and get any of the popular releases, they were all really priced up. And a lot of those releases, unless they got a repress, are still very high priced. Like you just can't touch them for less than like 35 plus shipping, maybe 40, maybe 50, 60. It's just, there's something about the Giegling label that makes people, collectors, want to really hold on to them. I mean, I have a pretty big collection at this point, and sometimes I do like pairings where I'm like a pair back, where I'm like, okay, I'm not really that into hard techno anymore. I'm willing to let some of these go. The Giegling are like they're on the do not sell list. Like I just can't get myself to sell them. It's like the cover art, the quality of the pressing, the fact that I know it would be very difficult to get them back, the very high quality, usually 4 or 5 star tracks across the board. I mean, it's just a really high achieving electronic music label. I mean, I really have to hand it to them. So I thought for this episode, it would be productive to go back and just look at the golden era of Giegling for me. That's about 2010 to 2020. I think since 2020 they've gotten a little bit shaky. You'll see a lot of their EPs come out, and maybe like 2 out of 4 tracks are good, or if it's a 3-tracker, maybe one's really good and 2 are like, So they're a little bit wobbly, and I think part of that is because Tromprinz is no longer on the roster, but maybe I'll touch on that a little bit later. I don't know why he's not. I'm guessing there was some drama involved in some regard. I don't know. I miss the guy. He needs a vinyl outlet. I know that for sure, and he doesn't have one now, so you just see him spitting out these SoundCloud like mixes where it's like, here's like 20 tracks that I like sketched together, and he doesn't even like DJ mix them. He just like plops them kind of end to end and just crossfades them, and even those mixes are better than like 95% of the crap that's being released right now, in contrast in like similar genres. So it's like, if I could send one message to Giegling, the people that are doing quality control and running the label, just try to work it out with Tromprinz if you can, because I think the label was just better when he was on there. So I just wanted to put that out there. And speaking of Tromprinz, I'm going to go through these 5 releases for you chronologically. I put them in order. Let's start with his Prince of Denmark alias. I have Prince of Denmark is the Tromprinz alias. He kicked it off with the Body triple album, then the Elusive 8 album on the Forum sublabel. I was looking at that when that first came out, and I thought the price sucked, and now it really sucks, and I'm like, man, I guess I should have bought that. And I think the odds of it repressing are close to 0 unless Giegling somehow welcomes Tromprinz back into their little safe nest, because otherwise I think there's either like an ego or a legal issue that's stopping them from repressing. I think Giegling's probably looking at the demand on Discogs for that and saying, man, we could make some money on this if we repressed it, but there's some other thing that's stopping them from doing it because it seems so obvious. There has to be a blocker. But fortunately, the Prince of Denmark singles are a little bit easier to get and a little bit more affordable. The first one is the one with the skull on it. That's called Soul Food, and this has like a double snake. Soul Food has the skulls. That's a really good single, and this one here is of a similar flavor. So you're basically getting like Tromprinz's dub techno self, like his dub techno alias. And to be honest with you, the 4 tracks on this one, this is the 50 Engineers EP, To the 50 Engineers. They're all sort of the same. I mean, if I was going to review them, I would probably describe them all similarly. My track of choice for you here, I thought the one that had maybe the most charm to it is Countless Words Illuminated. But it's really like 4 tracks of varied Tromprinz dub techno explorations where each one is legitimately 5 stars. You could take any of these, drop them into a set, and anybody in the crowd, like the speakers would be blowing up and everybody in the crowd would be vibing to it. So this is just another testament to Tromprinz's absolute talent and his ability to go into multiple spaces. And I talked earlier about Tromprins basically being like the centerpiece of Giegling when they were during their hype phase. And I'm not saying that this is the best Tromprins record ever. It's probably not, but this is in the top 5. This is the Tromprins. I think this is actually, yeah, this is the To the Sky EP. Now, I guess actually, I don't want to take this out. I don't want to take this out of its protective sleeve. This was given to me by a close friend that I made from this channel. And I want to just take a little tangent here. Sometimes I look at this channel and I'm like, what? Like, kind of like, what am I getting out of this? And then I go over to my text messages and I see that I have 8, 9, 10 people that I've become accustomed to talking to on a weekly basis in my text messages, and none of them I would have known without this YouTube channel. So I guess it is a little goofy to just sit here and talk to your computer and then put that out on the internet. Like, I'll admit that. But if I really think about what I'm getting from this, it's friendship, camaraderie, and basically fellowship with other people that are really heavy into music. And I really want to thank Matt Salcedo for sending this to me. I mean, I can think of maybe in my life 5 times where somebody really truly caught me off guard with a crazy surprise. One would be when somebody threw a surprise party for me a few years back. And this, I knew that Matt was sending me a package, and he just slipped basically an unplayed mint copy of Metatron into a box and said, "Here you go, Mark. I had 2 copies. I gave you one." I mean, that you want to talk about a friend coming through and just, I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that he gave me a copy of this. But anyways, thank you, Matt. And this is, in my opinion, the absolute pinnacle of Giegling hype. When this came out, I remember people that I didn't even know on Discogs were messaging me because I had written other Giegling related reviews asking me if I wanted to buy their other copy. And at this point, Discogs is not letting people do the trade offer thing anymore in the comments section. Remember, like, any Giegling release would just be absolutely spammed up with like, "Hey, I have a copy of this, willing to trade for that." I think they got sick of it. I mean, I got sick of reading people's trade offers and they banned it. But like, it just goes to show you like how effing nuts people are about this label. And I think the hype is like on its way down. But at one point, like a decade ago, this was like the thing. This was the release to have. So again, going back to the fact that my friend Matt Salcedo just decided to give this to me, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. And here I'm going to feature the track Too Bad. It has a really nice Mary J. Blige vocal in it. Tromprins is known for pulling at the heartstrings. The Tromprins alias, specifically in Metatron, are known for having that sad, melancholy feeling where you feel like he's always tugging at your grief and pulling here at your heart and just trying to help you release something. And you can really feel that in the subtle breakbeat, the subtle masterpiece that is Too Bad. So I talked about dub techno with the first release. I guess you could call the To the Sky release some sort of emo, maybe emo house. I think that's actually, I just made that up, or maybe I heard somebody else say that, but I think it actually is a pretty good describer. But Giegling is multi-subgenre, right? It's not completely funneled into one specific sound, which I think is another trap that a lot of modern labels fall into that they did not, right? Like think of, yeah, I'll throw some labels under the bus. Let's talk about Shanti Radio Moscow, All Day I Dream. Look at how corralled their sound is. Like I can't even tell those records apart, man. And to be honest with you, I had maybe 20 of them all together. I just sold them all as a batch. I said I'm like dismissing this genre as inferior, and it's like all cover art, no substance. And after having 3 of them, like I started to realize I was falling for the gimmick, and I was just like, I'm gonna let these go, because they're basically forcing their artists like through this funnel, like, here, you have to sound like this or you can't release on this label. And I just don't appreciate that at all. And then in contrast, you have this 5-star classy label, Giegling, with its sub-label Forum, bringing Vril to the table. I'm guessing it's pronounced Vril. I don't know how else you would pronounce it, but I've butchered some pretty serious done some pretty serious artist name butchers on this channel before, so if somebody comes back and it's like I did the vowel sound wrong, I wouldn't be surprised. But this, I think, is a classic in the eyes of Giegling people. Like I said, it's a double 12 album on the Forum sub-label, and one of the things I like about it, more so than Vril's modern takes, is that he went more eclectic on this. Like there's more of experimentation in the genres, like electro influences. It's not just leaning towards the heavy 3 a.m. straightforward Berghain techno flavor. Here, the track that I chose for you is called Taurus 32. I think it's like XXXII, like the Roman numeral for 32. And it does have the classic Vril undertone. If you take the melodic element out of it, you get that like signature Vril sound where he's kind of like fuzzy and hazy, sort of like a little bit of like deep chord and gas, and he just has his own signature weird techno sound. And a lot of times Vril will go down to like something like 109 beats per minute, or 114, or some kind of like odd BPM that lets him play with different flavors. And the in Taurus 32, the element that I love the most is like the atmospheric melodic sound that's like, it's big in and of itself. It sounds like it's far away and it's very opened up. So I can imagine if you were a DJ and you dared to play this at an outdoor festival at the right time and you had a chance to let that sound echo, oh my gosh, you could really blow people's minds. Moving up to 2015 now, I mentioned that Giegling is not specific in its genre, and this is a great example, and this is partially why I featured this album in this episode. This is Sapa, and this is his album on Forum. I don't actually know, this is the name of the album, whatever this means. Maybe it's actually just Sapa with Chinese letters. I don't know. That's my best guess. But I'll admit I'm not the first guy to pick up experimental records and listen to them. I would very easily let experimental go from my collection if it ever went up in value. It's like similar to how I feel about new disco. It's like, I'll hang on to it, but if somebody wants to pay 40 or 50 or $80 for it, I'll probably let it go. But that being said, I'm willing to stand my ground and hang on to this Sapa forever, because This is some really dark stuff. And one of the things I really like about it is I mentioned like I compared the last record with Vril to having like a haziness to it. This also reminds me of Gas and Deep Chord in a very similar vibe. The track that I like here is called Rusolo. I think it's the second track, either on the A side or the B side. And for anybody that's listening to my episode, maybe on a TV or a phone or even earbuds, like the sample that I'm going to give you is probably not going to come through very potent, but that's just the nature of it. Like this track's all low end. It's just got this like muddy, methodical kick drum to it, a really dark post-apocalyptic kind of like the world has ended, but the music's still playing kind of vibe to it. And if you like that, if you want to have something in your collection that makes you feel like you're taking a chance, or you're just not in the mood for straight up club music, but you want something that's really like deep and thoughtful, I think this Sapa album is the way to go. So again, this is the track called Rusolo. All right, and my fifth and final pick for you. Giegling is known for its compilations. People look forward to the Giegling various artist compilations. That's where all of the talent is featured, and nobody ever knows what's going to be on them until they're released. So it does create a bit of a hype, and it's a chance to capture all of the Giegling artists, hopefully hitting their perfect stride. And I think most people would agree, this various artists here with the keys, the keys on the front is probably, maybe this is one of the best various artists. I mean, I'm looking at the roster here: M.A.P, Edward with Check Check. I love that one. And the track I'm going to feature for you here is by Jacques Bon, and his track is called See and Feel. I was trying to think, how can I even describe this? What genre is it? I guess people, if you really force them to it, would say maybe it's tech house, but I'm going to call it Giegling Carnival House, because it's just a bizarre sound. And to be honest with you, that sound is conducive to, let's just call it the vibe or feeling that you might have at 2 or 3 in the morning at a party, right? It's if you think about what's a convincing party, what's a convincing nightclub, it's anything that makes you feel like you've gone to that alternate reality where, yes, you're still seeing things the same, but things feel different, right? This track is one of those tracks that makes you feel different, makes you feel like you've basically like relocated yourself into a different mental space. And the first time I heard this, I was just casually working my way through this album. Like a lot of times I'll just put it on. I don't look at who the artists are. I just put the needle on and I just let it play, and I'm blind listening. And See and Feel caught me off guard. I think I was sitting just staring and reading some article while this was playing in the background, and it has this very hissy, long drawn out buildup that I've captured for you in the sample here. And when that thing peaked, I was just like, I just snapped out of it. I was like with the speakers right here, looking over at this screen, and I was like, what the heck just happened? Like it literally stunned the pants off of me. And I came and wrote a review on Discogs right after that happened, because I basically just had a moment with a record. And I probably only get that type of moment with a record 2 or 3 times a year if I'm lucky. So I always appreciate it, and I really appreciate this track. Jacques Bon is a very talented producer. Check out his other productions if you like seeing feel, and check out this all-star cast on this album. Lafar, Ketten Carousel, Vril's on here. Everybody that was popular and is popular from Giegling is on this Various Artists compilation. So enjoy the sample. All right, this concludes my Giegling Mega Hits episode. I hope you enjoyed this. It's great to be back and talking to you all. I look forward to your comments down below, and feel free to make any suggestions if anything that I talked about today reminds you of other Giegling tracks. I'm always down to explore the label, and to be honest with you, I still have tons of gaps of knowledge, especially in the early portion of the catalog. So if you have any recommends, feel free to let me know. That's all for now. Take care.